Hello and welcome to Camp Xbox. In 2002, Namco was looking to launch a brand new franchise. That year we got entries for Pac-Man, Tekken, and Soul Calibur in arcades, but Dead to Rights was about to enter the scene, a hardcore cop revenge game with you and your trusty dog. What started as a timed exclusive for the Xbox, Dead to Rights is an iconic game of the 6th generation. I played through it recently, and I'll give you some history, lasting impact, and my opinions on it. All footage was captured from an original Xbox, except when noted, and I want to thank my YouTube channel members for their support. But let's go ahead and hop into this one.
Don't do anything stupid, Slate.
Justice may not be smart, but it should be honest. I was about to do something real stupid.
In early 2001, Dead to Rights was announced to the public. It was to be developed by Namco Home Tech, the developer's American console division. It was announced as a PS2 game that was inspired by the action flicks of director John Woo, hyping up that this game would mix guns and melee combat to be an all-out action affair. Just a few months later, Namco would unveil that they were working on multiple games for the then upcoming Xbox, with one of those titles being Dead to Rights. In an even bigger move that summer, Namco announced a deal with Microsoft to have Dead to Rights be a timed exclusive on the Xbox, 3 months before the PS2 and recently announced GameCube version. This is a big deal because outlets like IGN were hyping it up, doing interviews with the producer Andre Emerson, where he was saying things like that this was a new crime action genre. Though in my eyes, you can definitely draw comparisons to Max Payne, which came out in early 2001. Though that is neo-noir, and this one is much more akin to an action film. Flipping through old magazines as it hit 2002, that comparison was brought up more and more since Max Payne had been out for a bit. Official Xbox magazine would bring that up multiple times, though it was commented that the slow motion effect of diving and shooting was still cool. Places like Electronic Gaming Monthly and other outlets were excited, and I'm sure Xbox gamers were hyped up for its release earlier than other systems. It would release in North America on August 20th, 2002, and would see a Japanese release in November, and it wouldn't get to Europe till 2003. My personal history with this game is weird because I never really played them, but I always wanted to. This and the PSP entry always stared at me on shelves at game stores and GameStop, but I just never got it. When you grow up without a lot of money, you have to be a little picky with what games you got, and this one never made the cut. Though recently, I became interested in this one again, and since I'm an adult, I can play whatever I want. So I played through this one recently, and let me tell you how I felt about it, starting with the plot.
I had plenty of work ahead of me. Solve my father's murder and find the guy who set me up. And to do that, I was gonna need guns and information, more or less in that order. And there's one place where both exist in profusion: Chinatown.
In this game, you play Jack Slate, a police officer who has a trusty dog named Shadow. This game starts relatively routine and would be for most games, but Dead to Rights takes on a gigantic revenge plot here. In the first level, you get called to a routine police call, and you discover your father is dead. You go out and try to find the man who killed your father. And once again, a lot of games would end the plot here, but now you find out that it was an inside job with cops to frame Jack. So Jack goes to prison, and you get a long chapter about his escape, and the rest of the game is the battle between the police trying to silence Jack and your quest to take down a corrupt police officer. The plot obviously rings close to the John Woo films that it's inspired by, movies like Hard Boiled and The Killer. These movies have huge plots, but they're set up in a way that facilitates action. I'd even throw in Woo's American output Face Off or Michael Bay's The Rock or Bad Boys into the mix. Something that creates great action set pieces, and here you get that. But they're not disjointed. It has an interconnected through line that makes it fun to follow along. Is it a groundbreaking story? No, it's honestly a bit campy and silly at times. I mean, one of the villains does a Christopher Walken impression for some reason, yet I like a little bit of camp in my plot. It's not taking itself seriously, and it knows it's just here to facilitate a good time. I think all of the loose ends, such as massage parlors and burning buildings, make for great set-piece potential, and that the places this goes is so much fun. It's a solid plot to follow, though I don't think it strives for greatness. And that's okay. Feeling like a dumb action blockbuster, and at the end of the day, that's what it strives to be, and I think it succeeds at being entertaining. Dead to Rights is a third-person shooter, but it goes against the grain of traditional shooters of the 6th generation. Early on in the generation, we were still trying to find the perfect footing. The game's shooting style gives it a fast and arcadey feeling, which makes it unique and memorable. It is something that, coming back to, feels fresh, even if it has issues. You move with the left stick, and you hold down right trigger to aim, and it will do so automatically, and then you press A to shoot. You kill an enemy, and it will move to the next. But depending on distance, the colors change with the aim, with red being a guaranteed hit, and yellow being a 50-50 chance. I like this because it allows for fast action and aiming at many enemies in a room. It's quick and easy, and it helps that it's this simple because there are so many features packed into this game. Dead to Rights is not simple by any means. It's ambitious in the things that it does, but sometimes just doesn't follow through. The biggest element is your dog's shadow. I love that you can use him as a weapon. Scrolling through your weapons, your dog pops up and barks when he is locked and loaded. You can send him after an enemy, which is so helpful when you have an enemy hiding from you or running out of ammo because Shadow will bring you their gun. This is an excellent and well done feature. However, another feature is slow motion, which is underutilized. You have an adrenaline meter, and just like Max Payne, you can dive and kill enemies in slow motion. This never feels good. Aiming in this mode is always messy, and no matter where you dive, it feels like you're looking in the wrong area and can't target enough enemies. I always opted to not use this, and it ends up paling in comparison to the dynamic and easy Max Payne bullet time. Then you have the wall cover mechanic, which is just underutilized as well. In this game, you can go up to a wall and latch onto the edge. This allows for corner shooting and helps with the difficulty of this game. Though the number of walls you can latch to is tiny, you'd expect many of the walls or other objects to allow for this cover mechanic, but it's very rare. With how hard this game is, it would be so helpful, but it's an idea that's underbaked and needed more utilization in the game. Though it varies level to level when you need this game is split into 15 chapters in many different locations, and you'll either use guns or fight with your fists. The gun levels, which are the bulk of your gameplay, are a blast, though they have some mechanical problems and a staggering difficulty, which I'll touch on later, yet the fighting mode is not quite as polished. Here you have a mix of punches and kicks, and you can swap between these to combo. Yet this game has a thing where it throws an unrelenting amount of enemies at you. It's overwhelming with guns, but with no guns, it sets you up for a mode that will make you want to pull your hair out. See, in the fighting mode, enemies will surround you on all ends. You must block moves, and if you don't, the damage you take will ruin everything. Yet you can only face where Jack is pointing. So if you hit a combo on an enemy, someone can come up quickly behind you and hit you. You can't auto block from the front, and you also have to turn 180 degrees and block them, which generally there is zero time to do these movements. So a lot of fights consist of you running around to a single enemy to fight him one-on-one. Hit them a little, and then when everyone catches up, you run around again to single them out. I don't think this is what the game designers intended, and this feels far from the action movie style intended. It needed a targeting or quick block system to make this feel seamless. Though I won't say it's awful. I think these chapters can be fun, such as the long prison level, which has you running around and fighting hordes of prisoners. There's something about the onslaught there that I enjoyed. Though the level is highly hated, I found it to be interesting. It's the weird middle ground this game has where it's difficult and has issues, but it's so much fun. These levels are packed with enemies to the brim. You will be annihilated. You have to manage cover, ducking, and using shadow to make it out by the skin of your teeth. It's excellent, if not a little unfair at times. I think overly difficult games like this can be tedious, but what helps this game is the checkpoint system is well done. I found myself dying and restarting not far back from there. Part of difficulty in some games is that you die, go back like 30 minutes to make it through 29 minutes that you can play to hit a last minute that you struggle on, never learning, and you're destined to repeat that process over and over. Take out the tedium there, and you have something challenging yet forgiving, and mix that with how fast it is, and you're in for a great time. The aiming and shooting quick action with enemies loaded everywhere, you are gonna always be close to death, but when you race through these levels, mix all the weapons and destroy them all, it's exhilarating. I have to admit, I had a lot of fun here. The PS2 and GameCube versions would come out a bit later and would add difficulty options to remedy how hard this game was, which I did check out, and the game's normal mode is so much easier. But I like the soul-crushing quality, to be honest. Maybe it's because it's how I first played it and got through it. I do think the option to have a hard mode and easy mode would have been nice on the Xbox, and it's cool it exists in other versions. So if you want something a little more tame, but still fun, I think the other versions are worth playing, but the Xbox version is just a lot tougher, and I thought the difficulty helped keep this game entertaining. I was also seeing a rumor online that the Platinum Hits edition of the game was an updated version that the PS2 and GameCube got, but after playing it, no, the difficulty selection is not there, and it's the same difficult game. I feel like I could go on about the gameplay for ages because there's so much here. Like the mini games, there's a really cool bomb disarming mini game where you move a circle in an obstacle course. There's a short lock-picking game, and an insane rhythm-based stripper game where you distract men. It might be overly long, but it's so odd that it's in this game that it only adds to the charm of Dead to Rights. Same with the disarming mode, where you can take enemies' weapons with dynamic animations, a small touch they didn't have to do, but it's cool that it's here. This game's gameplay is maybe overly ambitious, with a lot of weird elements that aren't fully fleshed out. Yet, it's entertaining. All the stuff you do in the street fights, along with the difficulty of the game, create something stressfully fun. It makes for gameplay that you'll never know where it's going, and that mystery makes it a blast. Really quickly before we move on, I just want to say thank you for getting this far in the video. These videos take a while to make, but I love doing it. And if you want to help out the channel, please subscribe just to keep up with more content like this, and like the video because that helps me out a lot in the algorithm. But let's go ahead with the review. The voice acting in Dead to Rights has to be the most notable element of the audio for me. I think Chris Bruno solidly does the voice of Jack. The lines that he is given are cheesy, it's meant to emulate a turn-off-your-brain action flick, and he delivers it in a sarcastically fun way. He talks a lot, and the amount of voice lines is great, with him saying many different things. Yet, I found that the other voices are where it flies off the handle. They range from bad to just funny. Some of them are dropping some insane lines or doing some funky accents along with a Christopher Walken impersonator.
Whoa, Officer Slade, what brings you out on a night like tonight? You want to join us? $100 ante? Or is that too rich for your cop salary?
It's real simple, Blatz. You lie, you die.
It's bizarrely funny and only adds to the chaos of the experience. It's leaning into something campy, and it achieves it well. I also found the music to be a bit cheesy, but not in an enjoyable way. It sits in the background and isn't catchy or doesn't do anything special. It's a forgettable part of the game, though it does have one important thing. It'll turn off when enemies aren't around, and in a game with enemies hidden around every corner, this is extremely helpful. The other sound work is good, with the gun sound effects taking center stage. They're loud and punchy, really punctuating all of the action in the game. In this game, it's necessary to know what guns enemies have because of how much damage they deal. And the best way to figure it out is by sound, by listening for maybe a silencer or a quick fire rate. It's a nice way to make sound effects work alongside the gameplay, meaning the sound effects do a good job of assisting you, which is nice to see. Dead to Rights supports 480p and widescreen on the Xbox, which I always love to see. It looks very clean in widescreen, and the definition allows for less blurry textures and a clean output. It is clean in terms of fidelity, but it is also a bit blocky, feeling more like an early PS2 game in terms of jaggedness. Objects and environments don't have a ton of definition, and the characters especially are noticeably jagged and broken apart. It's not too fluid, especially with the dog, and I think this aspect is not pushing the Xbox by any means, though I think the variety in level design does help. The game travels to a lot of places like cemeteries, Chinatown, and burning buildings. This is nice because it does pack in variety into its dark nighttime look. There's a good amount of detail in these areas, and places like the streets are full of vehicles to hide behind. The lighting is also surprisingly solid here with some nice neon lighting, and since the game takes place pretty much all at night, it allows itself to show off a lot of lighting. Throw in that there are some early 2000s CGI cutscenes, which those are always fun to look at. On the Xbox, you watch them and they have a light haze to them, but fluid motion for the time. There are a lot of these in this game, and you can tell they're trying to achieve something cinematic. Just watch the opening sequence, which I think is really cool. Though it might not always hit that cinematic mark, I do think it's ambitious and solid. Also, it should be noted that Dead to Rights is backwards compatible on both the 360 and the Series X. On the Series X, it looks great. All of the cutscene haziness is cleaned up, and the game runs at an excellent fidelity. You can play this physically on Series and One consoles, but it's also available digitally for $10, which is a good deal. It looks crisp, and it's a much more cleaned up version of the game, which if you're into, definitely check it out. Dead to Rights is one of those flawed games that for me is hard not to enjoy. It's full of early 6th generation ambition, wanting to do so much at the turn of the new generation. And though it stumbles, it's entertaining. Video games are an entertainment medium, and when a game is this fun, it's hard to deny how I feel. I don't think it reaches greatness. Some mechanics are just not used well, and the fighting mode could have been improved. However, the silly action movie feeling is captured in the voice work and plot. Not only is this game extremely hard, but it's also forgiving with checkpoints. The shooting is a blast, and the mechanic with the dog is brilliant. I think I had too much fun and had a great time playing this as I was pushing my way through it. I recommend this one to anyone who can easily look past some flaws to find something that is pure entertainment. On my Xbox ranking list, where I rank every Xbox game I've covered so far on the channel, this one goes in at number 40 out of the 109 games I've talked about. This one was particularly hard for me to rank. I found the replay value on a lot of games in the top 40 above it to just be more replayable. So I think this placement is best for me. It goes above Crazy Taxi, which I'd put the original Dreamcast version higher than Dead to Rights, but the Xbox version of Crazy Taxi 3 just is a frame rate mess on that brand new map, which leaves little replay value for the Xbox only feature on that game. Whereas Transworld Snowboarding, despite being shorter, is far more replayable with a better put together game with all of its mechanics being better fleshed out. Dead to Rights came out to mixed to average reviews according to Metacritic. IGN gave it an 8.5 out of 10, saying that though it was hard, it was a blast, and if the fighting was better, it would be better than Max Payne. GameSpot gave it a 7.6, saying once again it was fun, but could be frustrating. Game Informer would give it a high 9.25, saying it has a ton of cool things going on and they loved it. Official Xbox Magazine would give it an 8.5, saying that the game could have looked better, but it was pure entertainment. All my usual suspects for reviews gave it a good score, but there were plenty of places like G4 and Electronic Gaming Monthly that did not enjoy this game. The game did sell well on the Xbox, selling over 400,000 copies, meaning it would get a Platinum Hits release. 3 months after its Xbox release, we would see GameCube and PS2 releases in November 2002. It would also get a PC release a year after that. This version would get a new difficulty selection option, toning down the brutality of the Xbox version. The PS2 version was received the exact same according to Metacritic, though the GameCube version actually fared better with a higher Metacritic score. The game also sold well enough on the PS2 to get a greatest hits version, and things would quickly move forward for Namco, setting up a franchise with a sequel going in the works and releasing in 2005, but that's a story for when I review that one. As far as consensus goes today, you will see people call it a cult classic or have good memories with it, yet on websites like Backlogged, where it holds a 3 out of 5 with over 500 plays, most of the reviews are kind of negative, with a lot of people harping on the Max Payne comparisons and finding it way too hard. Yet still, it has its fans as well in the reviews, and to be honest, I'm one of them. But that wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed this review, please leave a like, it helps me out in the algorithm. Subscribe to keep up with more retro Xbox content like this, and comment below with what I should cover next or any memories with this game. And I want to give a huge shout out to my YouTube channel members. Thank you so much for your support. But I'll see you here next time at Camp Xbox.